Lightning split the Oregon sky as Captain Mara Lewis stood abandoned on Highway 26, rain hammering her uniform while passing cars sprayed muddy water across her boots. When Carpenter Ethan Cole's truck finally stopped, neither knew that this moment, this simple act of kindness in a storm, would lead to a knock on his door that would threaten everything he held dear. Sometimes the most life-changing encounters begin not with grand gestures, but with a stranger offering shelter from the rain. Stay with me until the end to discover how one rainy night transformed 3 broken lives into something beautiful. And please comment below which city you're watching from. I'd love to know how far this story has traveled. The storm had been building all day over the Cascade Mountains, gathering its strength like an army preparing for siege. By the time it reached the small town of Maple Hollow, Oregon, it had become a monster of wind and water, turning the evening commute into a treacherous crawl of red taillights and white-knuckled drivers. Ethan Cole gripped the steering wheel of his aged Ford F-150, squinting through the rhythmic sweep of windshield wipers that couldn't quite keep pace with the downpour. His 9-year-old son Noah sat beside him, nose pressed against the passenger window, watching the rain create rivers on the glass. "Dad, look," Noah said suddenly, pointing ahead. "Someone's walking." Through the sheets of rain, Ethan could make out a figure trudging along the shoulder of Highway 26. As they drew closer, details emerged through the storm's chaos. Military fatigues, a heavy duffel bag combat boot splashing through puddles that had grown into small lakes. The person's head was bent against the wind, one hand clutching the bag's strap, while the other tried unsuccessfully to shield their face from the horizontal rain. "Should we stop?" Noah asked, his voice carrying that particular mix of concern and uncertainty that children possess when confronted with adult decisions. Ethan's foot hovered over the brake pedal. He'd driven past his share of hitchhikers over the years. Maple Hollow wasn't exactly the safest place to pick up strangers, especially with Noah in the truck. But something about this figure, about the determined yet exhausted way they pushed forward through the storm, made him ease off the accelerator. "It's a soldier, Dad," Noah observed as they passed. "Like Uncle Marcus was." The mention of his late brother-in-law made Ethan's chest tighten. Marcus had served 3 tours in Afghanistan before an IED took him 4 years ago. Sarah, Ethan's wife, had never quite recovered from losing her brother. It was one of many griefs that had accumulated in their marriage like sediment until the weight of it all had crushed what they'd built together. But Sarah was gone now too, claimed by cancer 2 years past, leaving Ethan to raise Noah alone in a house that felt too big and too quiet except for nights like this when the storm made the walls shake. Ethan glanced in the rearview mirror. The soldier was getting smaller still, walking, still fighting against the rain. He thought of Marcus somewhere in Afghanistan, probably hoping that if he ever needed help, someone would stop. He thought of Sarah, who would have already been yelling at him to turn around. He thought of the kind of man he wanted Noah to become. "Hold on, buddy," Ethan said, checking his mirrors before pulling a careful U-turn. The soldier didn't look up as the truck approached, didn't stick out a thumb or make any gesture asking for help. They just kept walking one foot in front of the other, as if the motion itself was the only thing keeping them upright. Ethan pulled alongside, slowly rolling down his window despite the rain that immediately began soaking his left side. "Hey!" he called out. "Need a ride?" The soldier stopped and turned, and Ethan saw her face clearly for the first time. She was younger than he'd expected, maybe early 30s, with dark hair plastered to her head and green eyes that held a weariness that had nothing to do with the walk. Her name tape read Lewis, and her rank insignia identified her as a captain. "I'm fine," she said, having to shout over the storm. "Thank you, though." "You're not fine," Ethan replied. "You're soaked through and it's getting dark. Where are you headed?" She hesitated, and in that moment of pause, Ethan saw something familiar. The look of someone who'd been self-sufficient for so long, they'd forgotten how to accept help. "Portland," she finally admitted. "Eventually. That's 40 miles in this weather. Come on, at least let me get you to the next town. There's a motel in Cedar Ridge about 10 miles up." Captain Lewis adjusted the duffel bag on her shoulder, and Ethan noticed how her hand trembled slightly. Exhaustion or cold, maybe both. "I don't want to impose," she said, but her voice had lost some of its initial resistance. "You're not imposing, I'm offering. There's a difference." Ethan leaned across Noah to push open the passenger door. Besides, my son here will think I'm a jerk if I leave you out in this. Noah nodded earnestly. It's true. I will. For the first time, Captain Lewis's expression softened slightly, almost approaching a smile. She looked at Noah, then back at Ethan, and something in her seemed to yield. All right, she said. Thank you. She walked around to the passenger side, and Noah scrambled over the center console to the small jump seat in the back, a space barely big enough for his 9-year-old frame, but which he claimed without complaint. Captain Lewis hefted her duffel into the truck bed, then climbed into the cab, bringing with her the smell of rain and something else cordite maybe, or just the indefinable scent of someone who'd been in places where danger was measured in seconds. I'm Ethan, he said, pulling back onto the highway. This is Noah. Mara, she replied, then added, almost formally, Captain Mara Lewis. Nice to meet you, Captain Lewis, Noah piped up from the back. Were you in the war? Noah, Ethan warned gently. It's okay, Mara said, glancing back at the boy. Yes, I was. Just got back, actually. From where? Noah asked. Afghanistan, a place called Kandahar. My uncle was in Afghanistan, Noah said. He died there. Ethan saw Mara's jaw tighten slightly. I'm sorry to hear that. It's okay. I was little. I don't remember him much. Noah was quiet for a moment, then asked, Is that why you're walking in the rain, because you just got back? Mara turned to look out the window. Something like that. They drove in silence for a few minutes, the rain hammering the truck's roof, creating a percussive soundtrack to their thoughts. Ethan noticed Mara's hands in her lap, clenched, tight knuckles white. He recognized that tension, the body holding itself together through pure will. The motel in Cedar Ridge is decent, he offered, trying to fill the silence with something practical. Clean, reasonable rates. There's a diner attached that makes pretty good pie. Sounds fine, Mara said, but her voice was distant, as if she was somewhere else entirely. Lightning flashed, illuminating the forest on either side of the highway, turning the trees into skeletal shadows, for a brief moment before plunging them back into darkness. Noah made a small sound, not quite fear, but close to it. You okay back there, buddy? Ethan asked. Yeah, Noah said, though his voice suggested otherwise. Just loud. Storm's supposed to pass by morning, Ethan said, though he wasn't sure if he was reassuring Noah or Mara or himself. They were about 5 miles from Cedar Ridge when they saw the flashing lights. Traffic had come to a complete stop, a line of red taillights stretching into the distance. Ethan eased to a halt behind a minivan. Accident, probably, he muttered, turning on the radio to catch the traffic report. Highway 26 is closed between mile marker 47 and 52 due to a multi-vehicle accident. Oregon State Police are asking drivers to seek alternate routes. The closure is expected to last several hours. Ethan turned off the radio and sighed. Well, that's not good. Is there another way? Mara asked. Not to Cedar Ridge, not from here. He thought for a moment. Look, this might sound forward, but my place is about 2 miles back. You're welcome to wait out the storm there. I can run you to Cedar Ridge in the morning or Portland if you need. Mara stiffened. I couldn't. The alternative is sitting in this traffic for who knows how long, Ethan pointed out. And Noah needs dinner. Don't you, buddy? I'm starving, Noah confirmed dramatically. Mara looked at the line of unmoving traffic, then at the rain still pounding the windshield, then at Noah's expectant face in the rearview mirror. You sure? She asked quietly. I wouldn't offer if I wasn't, Ethan said. Besides, you're not exactly in a position to cause trouble soaked as you are. No offense. That earned him the ghost of a smile. None taken. Ethan carefully maneuvered the truck through a 3-point turn using the shoulder to get around the traffic behind them. Other drivers were beginning to do the same. The news of the closure spreading through the automotive grapevine of CB radios and cell phones. The drive to Ethan's house took them off the highway, onto a county road that wound through dense forest. The trees formed a canopy overhead, their branches whipping in the wind, occasionally dropping pine cones that bounced off the truck's hood with hollow thuds. Do you live in the woods? Mara asked. Edge of them? Ethan replied. I've got 5 acres mostly forested. Built the house myself about 7 years ago. You're a builder, Carpenter. Do custom work mostly cabinets, furniture, that sort of thing. Have a workshop behind the house. Dad makes amazing stuff, Noah chimed in. He made my whole bedroom set, even carved a dragon on my headboard. A dragon, huh? Mara glanced back at him. That's pretty cool. It's breathing fire and everything. Want to see it? Noah, let's get inside first, Ethan said, turning onto a gravel driveway that crunched under the truck's tires. The house emerged from the darkness as the truck's headlights swept across it, a modest 2-story cabin-style home with cedar siding and a wraparound porch. It looked solid and welcoming, the kind of place built to withstand Oregon winters and provide refuge from storms exactly like this one. Home sweet home, Ethan said, pulling into the attached garage. The absence of rain on the roof was suddenly jarring the quiet, almost oppressive after the constant noise of the storm. They climbed out of the truck and Ethan grabbed Mara's duffel from the bed before she could protest. It's heavy, she warned. I've got it, he said, though he was surprised by the weight. Whatever she was carrying, it was more than just clothes. They entered through a door that led into a mudroom hooks on the walls, holding rain jackets and Noah's school backpack. Beyond that was the kitchen, warm and smelling faintly of the morning's coffee. Noah, go change into dry clothes, Ethan instructed. Mara, you're soaked through. Let me find you something dry to wear. I've got clothes in my bag. Which are probably also wet, Ethan interrupted gently. Come on, no arguments. Sarah's clothes are still… He stopped, swallowed. I have things that should fit. He led her upstairs. Noah already disappeared into his room and pulled open a closet in the hallway. Sarah's clothes hung there, still organized by color the way she'd always kept them. He'd meant to donate them, had even loaded them into boxes once, but somehow they'd ended up back in the closet. My wife's, he said simply. She was about your size. Was, Mara asked gently. Cancer, 2 years ago. I'm sorry. Yeah, me too. He pulled out jeans, a flannel shirt, wool socks. These should work. Bathroom's right there. Take your time, get warm. I'll get dinner started. Back downstairs, Ethan busied himself in the kitchen, falling into the familiar rhythm of preparing a meal. Nothing fancy, grilled cheese sandwiches and tomato soup from a can, but hot and filling. Noah appeared in his dinosaur pajamas, hair sticking up at odd angles. Is she staying for dinner? He asked. Yeah, buddy. Is that okay? Noah nodded, then asked quietly, Is she sad? Ethan paused in his stirring of the soup. What makes you think that she looks like you did after Mom died, like she's carrying something heavy? Sometimes the kid's perception knocked Ethan sideways. Maybe she is. That's why we're being kind, right? Helping her carry it for a little while. Like how Mrs. Henderson brought us casseroles. Exactly like that. Mara appeared in the doorway. Sarah's clothes fitting her well enough, though she held herself uncertainly, like she wasn't sure she had the right to wear them. Her hair was towel-dried and pulled back, and without the rain and exhaustion, Ethan could see she was beautiful, in a way that had nothing to do with conventional prettiness, and everything to do with strength worn down to its essential core. Feel better? He asked. Much, thank you, for all of this. Hungry. Starving, actually. I haven't eaten since… She trailed off, calculating. Yesterday, I think. Well, then you're in luck. Noah and I are experts at grilled cheese. The secret is butter on the outside and mayo on the inside, Noah said seriously. Mayo. Mara raised an eyebrow. Trust us, Ethan said. It's life-changing. They sat at the small kitchen table, rain still battering the windows, but feeling distant, now held at bay by walls and warmth. Noah peppered Mara with questions between bites about the army, about Afghanistan, about whether she'd ever jumped out of a plane she had many times. What was the scariest part? Noah asked. Mara considered this. Not the jumping. The jumping was actually fun once you got used to it. The scary part was the landing not knowing what you'd find on the ground. But you kept jumping. Yeah, I did. Why? She looked at Noah thoughtfully. Because the person next to me was jumping too, and they were counting on me to be there when they landed. Ethan watched this exchange, saw how Mara answered Noah's questions seriously, without condescension. Sarah had been like that with kids too, treating them like full people, just living in smaller bodies. After dinner, Noah showed Mara his room, insisting she see the dragon headboard. Ethan followed, leaning in the doorway, as Noah explained every detail of the carving, how the scales had taken Dad forever to get right, how the eyes seemed to follow you around the room. "Your dad's an artist," Mara told Noah, running her finger along the detailed work. "He says he just follows what's already in the wood," Noah replied. "But I think that's what artists do, right? See things other people don't." Mara glanced at Ethan, something shifting in her expression. "Yeah, I think you're right." They moved to the living room, Noah curling up on the couch with a book, while Ethan built a fire in the stone fireplace. Mara stood by the window watching the storm. "It doesn't stop, does it?" she said quietly. "The rain here." "Not this time of year," Ethan agreed, joining her at the window. "You get used to it. Learn to find the beauty in it, even." "I'm from Arizona originally," she said. "Phoenix. This much water still feels unnatural." "How long were you overseas?" 15 months this last deployment, 3 tours total. "And now?" She was quiet for a long moment. "Now I'm supposed to go home, but I'm not sure where that is anymore." Ethan understood that feeling, the sense of being unmoored, drifting between who you were and who you were supposed to become. After Sarah died, he'd felt like that for months. Would probably still feel that way if not for Noah anchoring him to daily routine and responsibility. "I was heading to Portland," Mara continued. "There's a VA hospital there. I'm supposed to check in, do the whole reintegration thing, but my car broke down about 5 miles from where you found me. Transmission finally gave out. I started walking because," she shrugged, "because stopping felt like giving up." "What about family?" "Parents died in a car accident when I was 19, no siblings. There was someone, another soldier, but—" She stopped abruptly, jaw clenching. Ethan didn't push. He recognized a wound too fresh to probe. Noah had fallen asleep on the couch, book open on his chest. Ethan covered him with a blanket, and Mara watched with an expression he couldn't quite read. "He's lucky to have you," she said. "I'm lucky to have him," Ethan corrected. "He's the one who got me through losing Sarah. Kids don't let you stop living, you know. They need breakfast and help with homework and stories at bedtime. They keep you moving forward even when you want to stop." Sarah was sick for a while. 8 months from diagnosis to... He trailed off. "It was aggressive. By the time they found it, there wasn't much to do but manage pain." "I'm sorry." "It's strange," Ethan said, moving to sit in the armchair across from the couch where Noah slept. "People always say that I'm sorry, and I never know how to respond. It's not their fault. It's not anyone's fault, really. It just is." Mara sat in the other chair, tucking her legs underneath her. "In Afghanistan, we had this medic, Tommy Reeves, 23 years old, from some tiny town in Kentucky. Kid could sing, had this beautiful voice used to sing old hymns while he worked on people. Kept them calm, you know." Ethan heard the past tense, knew where this was going. "IED hit our convoy 3 weeks ago. Tommy was in the lead vehicle. The singing stopped." She stared at the fire. "He was supposed to be going home 2 days later, had his flight booked and everything. His mom had planned this big welcome home party." "Were you close?" We were... She stopped, took a breath. "Yeah, we were close. Not supposed to be regulations and all, but over there rules about feelings seem pretty stupid when any day could be your last." "Did he know how you felt?" "I think so. I hope so. We never said it out loud, but there were moments. A look across the mess hall, his hand on mine, for just a second longer than necessary when passing equipment. We had this plan never spoken, but understood that when we got home, when I wasn't his CO anymore, we'd have coffee. Just coffee and see where it went from there." The fire crackled, sending sparks up the chimney. Outside, the storm continued its assault on the house, but inside felt separate from all that, a small pocket of warmth and safety. "The worst part," Mara continued, "is that I'm angry at him. Isn't that terrible? He's dead, and I'm angry because he left me to figure out how to come home alone. We were supposed to do it together, navigate all this." She gestured vaguely at the room, the normal world, together. "Anger's normal. Ethan said. I was furious at Sarah for months. How dare she leave me with a 7-year-old to raise alone? How dare she break her promise to grow old with me? It's not rational, but grief rarely is. When does it get better? It doesn't. Not really. It just gets different. You learn to carry it. Some days it's heavier than others, but you get stronger. Or maybe you just get used to the weight. They sat in comfortable silence, two strangers who'd found unexpected common ground in loss. Noah stirred on the couch, mumbling something about dragons in his sleep, and Ethan smiled. He has nightmares sometimes, Ethan said quietly. About Sarah. Wakes up crying for her, and there's nothing I can do but hold him and wait for it to pass. You're doing enough, Mara said. Trust me, just being there, that's everything. The fire had burned down to embers, the room growing cooler. Ethan stood, added another log, watched the flames catch and grow. You should stay tonight, he said. The roads will be dangerous and the motels will be booked with stranded travelers. I've got a guest room, clean sheets, private bathroom. No strings, no expectations, just a place to sleep. Mara looked like she wanted to protest that instinctive rejection of help rising again. But something exhaustion maybe, or the simple human need for shelter won out. Okay, she said. Thank you. Ethan woke Noah gently, guided the sleepy boy upstairs to his room. When he came back down, Mara was standing by the mantel, looking at the family photos displayed there. She was beautiful, Mara said, indicating a photo of Sarah laughing at some long-forgotten joke her blonde hair caught in sunlight. She was, Ethan agreed, inside and out, one of those people who made everyone around her feel special. You know, Noah has her smile. And her stubborn streak. God help me when he hits teenage years. Mara traced a finger along the frame of another photo, Ethan. Sarah and a much younger Noah at the beach, all of them covered in sand and grinning. You were happy, she observed. We were. That's what makes it hard, I think. If we'd been miserable, if we'd been heading for divorce or something, maybe it would be easier. But we were happy. We had plans. We were going to travel when Noah got older, see Europe, maybe teach him to ski in the Alps. He shook his head. Stupid to plan that far ahead, I guess. Not stupid, Mara said firmly. Hope is never stupid. It's what keeps us going. He showed her to the guest room, pointed out extra towels, the bathroom where to find him if she needed anything. She stood in the doorway looking suddenly young and uncertain. Ethan, why did you stop, really? He thought about it. Honestly, I don't know. Something about seeing you out there fighting through that storm alone, it reminded me that kindness doesn't cost anything, but it can mean everything. And maybe, he paused, maybe I needed to be reminded that I can still help someone, that I'm more than just a widower going through the motions. She nodded slowly. Well, I'm glad you did. Stop, I mean. Me too. Good night, Mara. Good night. Ethan lay in his own bed listening to the storm and thinking about the strange turns life could take. This morning he'd woken up to just another gray October day, planning nothing more than picking Noah up from school and maybe working on the Hendersons' cabinet order. Now, there was a soldier in his guest room, a woman carrying grief as fresh as his had once been, and somehow her presence made the house feel less empty. He thought about Sarah, wondered what she'd make of this. She'd always been the one to take in strays, cats, dogs, people. She'd have liked Mara, he thought, would have seen past the walls to the hurt underneath, would have known exactly what to say to make it better. But Sarah was gone, and Ethan was here, and downstairs was a woman who jumped out of planes because someone was counting on her to be there when they landed. Maybe that's all any of them could do, keep jumping, keep landing, keep showing up for whoever needed them. The rain continued through the night, but the house stood strong against it, and 3 damaged souls slept under its roof, finding temporary shelter from their different storms. When morning came, it brought weak sunlight filtering through clouds and the sound of someone playing piano. Ethan followed the music downstairs, finding Mara at the old upright in the corner of the living room, the one Sarah used to play. Her fingers moved across the keys with surprising skill, pulling out a melody that was both melancholic and beautiful. She stopped when she saw him. Sorry, I didn't mean to wake you. You didn't. Noah's internal clock goes off at 6:30 regardless. He's in the shower. He moved closer. I didn't know you played. My mom taught me before. It's been years since I had access to a piano. She ran her fingers silently over the keys. This is a beautiful instrument. It was Sarah's. She played every evening, said it helped her think. Do you play? No. Keep meaning to learn, but… He shrugged. One more thing on the list of things I'll get to someday. I could teach you. I mean, if you wanted, while I'm here. She caught herself. Not that I'm assuming I'm staying or anything. The roads are probably still a mess, Ethan said, though they both knew that wasn't really what this was about. Stay for breakfast, at least. Noah will be disappointed if you leave without saying goodbye. She nodded, and he saw relief flash across her features. Noah bounded down the stairs, hair wet from his shower, and immediately perked up, seeing Mara still there. You stayed, he exclaimed. The storm was pretty bad, Mara explained. Your dad was kind enough to let me use the guest room. Are you staying for breakfast? Dad makes amazing pancakes, like restaurant good. Well, with an endorsement like that, how can I refuse? They fell into an easy rhythm in the kitchen, Ethan mixing batter while Mara set the table and Noah regaled them with stories from school about his best friend Jason, who could burp the alphabet, and their teacher Mrs. Patterson, who had a pet snake named Noodle. A snake? Mara asked, flipping pancakes with surprising expertise. In the classroom. It's actually cool, Noah said. We take turns feeding him and everything. Did you ever see any snakes in Afghanistan? A few. Mostly we worried about camel spiders, though. Camel spiders. Noah's eyes widened. As Mara launched into a somewhat edited version of desert wildlife encounters, Ethan watched them interact. There was something natural about it, the way she fell into conversation with Noah, neither talking down to him nor over his head. She had a way of including him, making him feel heard. After breakfast, Ethan drove Mara back to her broken-down car to retrieve some things she'd left. It was a beat-up Honda Civic looking even more pathetic in the daylight, steam still wisping from under the hood. How long have you had it? Ethan asked. Since high school. It's taken me everywhere college basic training across the country twice. Guess it finally had enough. Mike's garage in town is honest. He could tow it, give you an estimate. For a transmission on a 20-year-old car, she shook her head. It's not worth it. I'll call a junkyard, have them take it. What about getting to Portland? She shrugged, that defensive wall sliding back into place. Bus probably, or hitchhike. Or, Ethan said carefully, you could stay a few more days, figure out your next move without rushing. The guest room's not going anywhere. I can't impose. You're not. Look, I know we just met, but Noah likes you, and he doesn't warm up to people easily these days. And honestly, it's nice having another adult to talk to. The house has been too quiet. Mara looked at him for a long moment, and he could see her weighing options, calculating risks versus benefits, like the soldier she was. A few days, she finally agreed. Just until I figure things out. But a few days turned into a week, and neither of them mentioned her leaving. She fell into their routine like she'd always been there. Mornings were for coffee and Noah's chatter about school. While Ethan worked in his shop and Noah was at school, Mara would run long, punishing runs through the forest trails trying to exorcise demons that couldn't be outpaced. Evenings were for homework help and dinner prep. Mara teaching Noah card games she'd learned overseas while Ethan cooked. You're letting me see, Noah said one evening, frowning at his cards. Am I? Mara asked innocently. Though Ethan saw her shift her hand slightly, you're doing it on purpose. Prove it, soldier. Noah giggled, and Ethan felt something in his chest loosen. He hadn't heard that sound enough lately. Later, after Noah was in bed, Ethan found Mara on the porch, wrapped in one of Sarah's old sweaters, staring out at the dark forest. Can't sleep? He asked, joining her on the bench. Habit. Over their night was when things happened. Your body learns to stay alert. How long before that goes away? I'll let you know. They sat quietly listening to the night sounds, wind in the trees, a distant owl, the creak of the house settling. I got a letter, Mara said suddenly. From Tommy's mother, forwarded from my unit. Have you read it? Can't bring myself to. What if she blames me? I was his CO. I was supposed to keep him safe. You were in a war zone, Mara. You couldn't control everything. But I should have. She stopped, took a shaky breath. The convoy route, I knew it was dangerous. Had requested an alternate path, but command said no. I should have pushed harder, should have refused. And then you'd have been court-martialed, and someone else would have led that convoy, and the result would have been the same. You don't know that. Neither do you. That's the hell of it, isn't it? The what-ifs. What if Sarah had gone to the doctor sooner? What if we'd tried different treatments? What if I'd been a better husband, given her more reasons to fight? He turned to look at her. We can what-if ourselves to death, but it doesn't change anything. Tommy's gone. Sarah's gone. We're here. That has to count for something. Mara pulled the letter from her pocket, worn from being handled, but still sealed. Would you stay while I read it? Of course. She opened it carefully, hands trembling slightly. Ethan watched her face as she read, saw her eyes fill with tears that she refused to let fall. She thanks me, Mara whispered. Says Tommy wrote about me in his letters, says I made him feel brave. She pressed a hand to her mouth. How could I have made him feel brave? He was the brave one. Maybe you made each other brave. Maybe that's how it works. She folded the letter carefully, tucked it back in her pocket. Then, surprising them both, she leaned into him just slightly, her shoulder against his. He didn't move, afraid to break whatever spell had allowed this moment of contact. Your wife was lucky, she said quietly, to be loved the way you loved her. Tommy was lucky too. They stayed like that until the cold drove them inside a fragile connection formed in the space between their respective griefs. The second week of Mara's stay brought an unseasonable warm spell to Maple Hollow, one of those false autumn springs that Oregon sometimes offered before winter set in properly. Ethan was in his workshop sanding a cabinet door for the Henderson order when he heard the piano again. But this time it wasn't just Mara playing Noah's voice, carried through the open windows, singing along to whatever melody she was teaching him. Ethan set down his sandpaper and moved quietly to the doorway between the shop and the house. Through the living room entrance, he could see them at the piano bench, Mara's hands guiding Noah's smaller ones across the keys while they worked through a simple version of Blackbird by the Beatles. See, you've got it, Mara encouraged, as Noah successfully completed a passage. Music is just patterns. Once you understand the patterns, you can play anything. Mom used to say that about cooking. Noah said, his fingers still moving across the keys. That recipes were just patterns, too. Your mom sounds like she was smart. She was. Dad says I get my brain from her, and my stubbornness from him. Mara laughed a real laugh that transformed her face. I'd say that's a pretty good combination. Will you teach me the song you were playing the other morning, the sad, pretty one? That's Chopin. It might be a little advanced for... Please, I learn fast. Ask Dad, I'm really good at learning things. Ethan heard Mara's soft sigh of capitulation. All right, but we start slow. First, you need to understand the emotional structure, not just the notes. Emotional structure. Music tells stories, Noah. This piece, it's about longing, about wanting something you can't have anymore. So when you play it, you have to feel that in your fingers. Like how I feel about Mom. There was a pause, and Ethan held his breath. Yes, Mara said gently. Exactly like that. The music holds those feelings for us when they're too big to carry alone. Ethan retreated to his workshop, not wanting to intrude on their moment. He tried to focus on his work, but his mind kept drifting to the woman in his living room, who'd somehow in just 2 weeks begun filling spaces he hadn't even realized were empty. That evening, after a dinner where Noah had excitedly demonstrated his new piano skills, Ethan's phone rang. The caller ID showed his in-law's number, and his stomach immediately clenched. I should take this, he said, stepping out onto the porch. Ethan. Richard's voice was cold formal. We need to discuss Noah. What about Noah? Patricia and I have been talking. We're concerned about his living situation. His living situation. He's living with his father in his home. What's to discuss? A father who's clearly struggling. Mrs. Patterson called Patricia yesterday, said Noah's been tired in class, distracted. He's 9 years old, Richard. Sometimes kids get tired. And this woman staying with you? The neighbors have noticed. Ethan's hand tightened on the phone. Mara is a friend who needed temporary help. Not that it's any of your business. Everything about Noah is our business. He's all we have left of Sarah. He's not a memorial Richard. He's a little boy. My little boy. We'll see about that. The line went dead. Ethan stood there staring at his phone, a cold dread settling in his stomach. He knew Richard and Patricia had been struggling with Sarah's death, knew they blamed him somehow for not saving her, but this felt different. This felt like a threat. When he went back inside, Mara took one look at his face and sent Noah upstairs to get ready for bed. "What's wrong?" she asked once they were alone. "Sarah's parents, they've never accepted her death. They think I should have done more, fought harder, found better doctors." "That's grief talking." "Maybe. But Richard just implied they might try to take Noah." Mara's expression hardened. "Can they do that?" "I don't know. I mean, legally, I'm his father, but they have money connections if they really wanted to make trouble." He slumped into a chair. "God, I can't lose him too, Mara. I can't." She moved to sit across from him, leaning forward. "You won't. You're a good father, Ethan. Anyone can see that." I work too much. The house is a mess half the time, and now I've got a stranger living here." He caught himself. "I didn't mean... It's okay. I am a stranger technically, and maybe my being here complicates things." She stood. "I should go. Tomorrow. I don't want to cause problems for you." "No." The word came out sharper than he intended. "No, you're not the problem. They are. They've been circling since Sarah died, waiting for me to screw up. Well, I'm not giving them the satisfaction." Before Mara could respond, Noah appeared in his dinosaur pajamas. "Dad, is everything okay?" "Everything's fine, buddy. Just grown-up stuff." Noah looked between them, clearly unconvinced. "Is Mara leaving?" "Why would you think that?" Ethan asked. "Because she has that look. The same one she had that first night, like she's planning escape routes." Mara's eyes widened slightly. "You're too observant for your own good, you know that." "Mom used to say that too." Noah moved closer to her. "Please don't leave. Dad's happier since you've been here. He actually laughs at dinner instead of just pretending to." Ethan felt his face heat. "Noah, it's true. And you're teaching me piano, and you actually know how to help with my math homework, and you make Dad remember to eat lunch when he's working." Noah turned his earnest gaze on Mara. "We need you." The silence stretched out heavy with things unsaid. Finally, Mara knelt down to Noah's level. "How about this? I promise I won't leave without saying goodbye. No sneaking away in the night. Deal." Noah considered this, then stuck out his pinky. "Pinky promise." Mara linked her pinky with his solemnly. "Pinky promise." After Noah was tucked in, Ethan found Mara in the garage examining his truck. "Planning your escape?" he asked, trying to keep his voice light. "Checking your oil. When's the last time you had this serviced?" "I don't know, 6 months ago maybe?" She shook her head. "You're overdue. I'll change it tomorrow." "You don't have to." "I know I don't have to." She closed the hood. "I want to. It's something I can do, something concrete. Over there, everything had a purpose. You know, every action mattered. Here, I feel like I'm just drifting." "You're healing. That matters." "Does it?" "Because from where I'm standing, it feels like I'm hiding. From the VA, from Tommy's family, from figuring out what comes next. Maybe hiding and healing look the same from the inside." She leaned against the truck, studying him. "You ever think about what comes next for you after the grief, I mean?" "Honestly, I try not to think past next week. It's easier that way." "But Noah's going to grow up. He'll need less from you." "What then?" It was a question Ethan had been avoiding for 2 years. "I don't know. Sarah and I had all these plans, but they were our plans together. I don't know how to make new ones alone." "You're not alone. You have Noah." "That's different." "Is it?" They stood there in the dim garage, two people who'd lost their futures trying to figure out how to build new ones from the wreckage. The next morning brought rain again, a steady drizzle that turned the world gray. Ethan was preparing to leave for a client meeting when his phone rang. It was Jason's mother asking if Noah could come over after school for a playdate. Actually, that would be perfect, Ethan said, an idea forming. After dropping Noah at school with the promise of picking him up from Jason's house later, Ethan returned home to find Mara under his truck tools spread around her. "You weren't kidding about that oil change," he called out. She slid out from under the vehicle, a smudge of grease on her cheek. "Almost done. Your filter was basically sludge. Leave that for a minute. I want to show you something." She wiped her hands on a rag, following him through the rain to his workshop. In the back corner, covered by a tarp, was something he hadn't touched in 2 years. "Sarah's project," he said, pulling away the covering to reveal a partially restored 1967 Mustang. She bought it the year before she got sick. We were going to fix it up together, teach Noah about cars when he got older. Mara walked around the car, slowly running her hand along the primer-spotted body. She had good taste. She had expensive taste, Ethan corrected with a small smile. But yeah, she did. I haven't been able to, I don't know, it felt like her thing. But it could be Noah's thing, yours and his. I don't know the first thing about restoring cars. I do. She popped the hood, examining the engine. Spent summers working in my uncle's garage. This needs work, but it's doable. She looked up at him. We could do it. Together. Give me something useful to do while I'm here, and when I leave... She paused. When I leave, you and Noah will have this. The word leave sat heavy between them, a reminder that this was temporary, whatever this was. Okay, Ethan said. Let's do it. They spent the morning cataloging what needed to be done, Mara's expertise evident as she diagnosed problems and suggested solutions. She was in the middle of explaining carburetor rebuilding when they heard a car in the driveway. Through the workshop window, Ethan saw a black town car pulling up. His stomach dropped. Stay here, he told Mara, but she followed him anyway. Richard and Patricia Walsh stood on his front porch like judges at a tribunal. Richard was tall, silver-haired, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Ethan made in a month. Patricia was perfectly put together despite the rain, not a hair out of place. We need to talk, Richard said without preamble. About what? Ethan asked, though he knew. About our grandson's welfare. Noah's fine. Patricia's gaze shifted to Mara, taking in the grease-stained clothes, the military bearing. And you are? A friend, Mara said simply. The friend who's been living here. Patricia's tone could have frozen water. Playing house with our daughter's family. Patricia, Ethan warned. No, Ethan. We've been patient. We've watched you struggle, waited for you to ask for help. But this, she gestured at Mara. Sarah's been gone barely 2 years and you're already replacing her. Nobody's replacing anyone, Ethan said, anger rising. Mara needed help. I offered it. That's what decent people do. Decent people don't move strangers in with their children, Richard said. We've spoken to a lawyer. The words hung in the air like a threat. A lawyer? Ethan's voice was dangerously quiet. For what? Custody. We believe Noah would be better off with us. Over my dead body. It doesn't have to be contentious, Patricia said, trying for reasonable. We have resources, stability, the best schools opportunities you could never provide. I provide him love. I provide him consistency. I'm his father. A father who's clearly overwhelmed. Richard set his gaze again, finding Mara. Making questionable decisions. Mara stepped forward. With all due respect, sir, you don't know what you're talking about. I've been here 2 weeks, and in that time, I've seen a father who makes his son breakfast every morning, helps with homework every night, and builds dragon headboards because his kid asked. I've seen a man working himself to exhaustion to keep his son's life stable. If that's not good parenting, I don't know what is. Richard's face reddened. And who exactly are you to judge? Someone who knows what it looks like when people step up and when they step back. Ethan's stepping up, every single day. What are you doing besides threatening him? Patricia clutched her pearls literally. How dare you? I dare because I've seen what happens to kids who get caught in adult crossfire. You want to honor your daughter's memory? Support the family she chose, the man she loved, the father of her child. Don't tear it apart because you're angry she's gone. The silence was deafening. Finally, Richard spoke, his voice cold. We'll be in touch. They left in their expensive car, and Ethan sagged against the porch railing. They're really going to do it, he said. They're going to try to take him. Then we fight, Mara said. She met his gaze steadily. You helped me when I needed it. Let me return the favor. That afternoon, while Noah was still at Jason's house, they sat at the kitchen table with Ethan's laptop, researching custody law in Oregon. Mara had made coffee, strong and black, and was taking notes in neat, military-precise handwriting. Okay, she said. From what I'm reading, grandparents can petition for custody, but they have to prove you're unfit. Being a single parent isn't enough. They'd need evidence of neglect or danger. Which I haven't done. No, but they'll try to make normal things look bad. You work long hours, neglect. Noah's tired in class, neglect. You have a woman staying here, inappropriate environment. So what do? Document everything. Every school event you attend, every meal you make, every homework session. Create a paper trail of good parenting. She paused. And maybe I should find somewhere else to stay. No. He reached across the table, almost touching her hand before pulling back. You leaving now would look like I had something to hide. Besides, Noah would be devastated. And you? He met her eyes. I'd be devastated too. The admission hung between them, raw and honest. Before either could respond, Ethan's phone buzzed. It was a text from Jason's mom saying Noah wasn't feeling well and asking him to come pick him up. They drove together, Ethan's worry evident in his white-knuckled grip on the steering wheel. They found Noah on Jason's couch, pale and quiet. Hey, buddy, Ethan said, feeling Noah's forehead. What's wrong? My stomach hurts, Noah said in a small voice. When did it start? Mara asked her medic training, evident in the professional way she checked his pulse. After lunch, we had pizza, and then Noah's face crumpled. Grandma and Grandpa were at school. Ethan's blood ran cold. What do you mean they were at school? They came at lunch. Said they wanted to take me out for food, but Mrs. Patterson said they weren't on the approved list. Grandpa got really mad. He said things about you, Dad. Mean things. Oh, buddy. Ethan pulled Noah into his arms. I'm so sorry. Are they going to take me away? Noah's voice was muffled against Ethan's shirt. I heard them talking to Mrs. Patterson about custody. I don't want to live with them. They don't even let me play inside. Everything in their house is breakable. Nobody's taking you anywhere, Ethan said firmly. You're staying right here with me. And Mara. Noah peeked out at her. As long as you want me, Mara said softly. They drove home in silence, Noah curled in the back seat. Once there, Ethan carried him inside despite Noah's protest that he was too big to be carried. Sometimes we all need to be carried, Ethan told him, settling him on the couch with a blanket and ginger ale. While Noah rested, Mara called the school. Her military authority voice in full effect as she spoke to the principal about the incident and the importance of maintaining the approved pickup list. Ethan listened to her defend his family like they were her unit, and something shifted in his chest, a recognition of possibility he hadn't felt in 2 years. That evening, after Noah had eaten some soup and regained his color, they all sat in the living room. Noah was teaching Mara a card game he'd learned at school, while Ethan pretended to read, actually watching them over his book. Mara, Noah said suddenly, were you scared in the war? All the time, she answered honestly. But you still went. Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do what needs to be done despite being scared. Like Dad taking care of me even though he's sad about Mom. Mara glanced at Ethan. Exactly like that. Are you sad about someone too? Yes, someone very important to me. Noah considered this. Maybe that's why you found us. Mom used to say people who need each other have a way of finding each other. Your mom sounds like she was very wise. She was. She would have liked you. You're tough like she was. She pretended she wasn't, but when she got sick, she was the bravest person I knew. Ethan had to leave the room, then standing on the dark porch and breathing through the wave of grief and something else, something that felt dangerously close to hope. Mara joined him a few minutes later. He's setting up another game. I'm apparently not challenging enough. He's too smart for his own good. He gets that from both his parents, I think. They stood shoulder to shoulder looking out at the darkness. I called a friend from my unit today, Mara said. She works at the VA in Portland now. Says she can get me in next week for evaluation. Ethan's chest tightened. That's good. That's what you need to do. Is it? You have to deal with your trauma, Mara. It won't just go away. I know. But I also know that being here with you and Noah, it's helping in ways I didn't expect. I sleep through the night here. I don't jump at every sound. For the first time since Tommy died, I can imagine a future that isn't just about surviving the next day. What kind of future? She turned to look at him. I don't know yet, but for the first time I want to find out. Before Ethan could respond, Noah called from inside, demanding Mara's return for the rematch. She squeezed Ethan's shoulder as she passed a brief touch that burned through his shirt. Later that night, after Noah was asleep, they sat at the kitchen table again this time, with a glass of wine, each the first time either had drunk since Mara arrived. Tell me about Tommy, Ethan said. Not how he died, how he lived. Mara smiled a real smile that transformed her face. He was ridiculous. 23 going on 12 sometimes. He'd organized these elaborate pranks on the other units, nothing mean, just silly. Once he managed to fill the lieutenant's tent with balloons. In Afghanistan. Where did he even get balloons? Sounds like someone Noah would like. They would have been friends, I think. Tommy had that same curiosity about everything. He was studying to be a pediatric nurse. Can you imagine this kid from Kentucky who'd never been further than Louisville before joining up, and he wanted to help kids heal? He sounds special. He was, but also ordinary in the best ways. He missed his mom's cooking, complained about the heat, got excited about care packages. He was just human, beautifully simply human. You loved him. I did. Do. Present tense feels wrong, but past tense feels like betrayal. I know exactly what you mean. They drank in comfortable silence, the kind that didn't need filling. Can I ask you something? Mara said. Why did you keep Sarah's clothes? Ethan considered the question. At first it was because I couldn't bear to remove them. Then it became habit. Now I think I was waiting. For what? For someone who needed them. Someone who would make them mean something other than loss. He met her eyes. They look right on you. That probably sounds weird. No, it doesn't. It sounds like grace. The next few days fell into a routine of careful normalcy. Ethan worked on the Henderson order while Mara and Noah spent hours at the piano or working on the Mustang. She was teaching him about engines, and Ethan would hear them from his workshop, Noah asking endless questions and Mara patiently answering. But underneath the routine was tension. Richard had called twice, leaving messages about discussions and arrangements. Ethan had started documenting everything, as Mara suggested, keeping receipts, taking photos of meals, saving Noah's improved homework grades. Thursday afternoon, Ethan came home from delivering the Henderson cabinets to find Mara in the kitchen with a woman he didn't recognize. Both women stood when he entered, and something in their posture made his stomach clench. Ethan, Mara said carefully, this is Jennifer from Child Protective Services. The woman extended her hand. Mr. Cole, I'm here following up on a concern that was reported. Let me guess. Richard Walsh. I can't disclose who made the report, but I do need to do a basic welfare check. Is Noah home? He's at school, and he's fine. I'm sure he is. This is just procedure. May I look around? Ethan wanted to refuse, wanted to rage about invasion of privacy and grandparents who couldn't accept reality. But Mara caught his eye, nodded slightly. Of course, he said. Jennifer was thorough, but not unkind. She examined Noah's room, checked the refrigerator and pantry, asked about routines and schedules. She interviewed Mara separately, then together. How long have you been staying here? She asked Mara. About 3 weeks. And your relationship to the family? I'm a friend. Ethan helped me when my car broke down, and I've been helping with Noah while I get back on my feet. You're military. Recently discharged. Captain Army 3 tours in Afghanistan. Jennifer made notes. And you're comfortable with the environment here for Noah? More than comfortable. Ethan's an exceptional father. Noah's thriving. When Jennifer finally left promising to be in touch, Ethan slumped against the door. They're really doing this, he said. They're trying to take my son. They're trying, Mara agreed. But they won't succeed. That social worker saw a clean house, stocked kitchen, Noah's artwork on the walls, his excellent report card on the fridge. She saw a father who came home in the middle of the day to deal with this, who was polite despite being angry. You did everything right. What if it's not enough? It will be. That evening, Noah was quieter than usual at dinner, pushing his food around his plate. What's wrong, buddy? Ethan asked. Kids at school are talking. Jason said his mom heard Grandpa Walsh is trying to get custody of me. Small towns, Mara muttered. Is it true? Noah looked between them. Are they trying to take me? Ethan took a deep breath. They're trying to say they could take better care of you than I can, but it's not going to happen. How do you know? Because I'm your dad, and nothing changes that. And because we have truth on our side. You're happy, healthy, doing well in school. That's what matters. But what if the judge doesn't see that? Mara leaned forward. Then we make sure the judge does see it. We show them every good grade, every picture you've drawn, every laugh at dinner. We show them that this is your home. If you'll have me, Mara said, looking at Ethan as much as Noah. I'd like to help. Please, Noah said immediately. Please stay and help. That night after Noah was asleep, Ethan found Mara sitting at Sarah's piano, not playing, just sitting. Thank you, he said, for today, for staying calm when I wanted to punch something. That's what soldiers do. We stay calm in crisis. Is that what this is, a crisis? No, she said softly. This is a family under pressure. There's a difference. We're not a family, Ethan said, though the words felt wrong even as he said them. Mara stood, moved closer to him. Aren't we? We eat together, work together, worry about Noah together. What else would you call it? Complicated. The best things usually are. She was close enough that he could smell her shampoo, see the gold flecks in her green eyes. For a moment they stood frozen, balanced on the edge of something. Then Noah's voice called from upstairs, breaking the spell. Dad, I had a bad dream. Ethan stepped back. I should go. I'll be here. As he climbed the stairs to comfort his son, Ethan thought about those 3 words. I'll be here. They felt like a promise, one he was starting to depend on despite knowing better. The nightmare that had woken Noah wasn't about monsters or darkness. It was about suitcases. Ethan held his son as he described the dream, how everyone in the house was packing, how no matter how fast Noah tried to unpack things, more suitcases appeared. Even Mara was packing, Noah whispered against Ethan's chest. She had her big green bag, the one from that first night, and she was putting all the music books in it. It was just a dream, buddy. Nobody's going anywhere. Promise? Ethan hesitated, knowing he couldn't promise what Mara would do, but Noah's trembling decided him. I promise we'll all talk before anyone goes anywhere. No surprises. When Noah finally fell back asleep, Ethan found Mara in the workshop examining the Mustang's engine by lamplight. She'd changed into jeans and one of his old flannel shirts, sleeves rolled up, grease under her fingernails, like she'd been born to this work. Couldn't sleep either, he asked. Wanted to check the valve timing. I think I figured out why it's been misfiring. She didn't look up from the engine. Is Noah okay? Bad dream about everyone leaving. Her hand stilled on the wrench. I'm making things harder for him, aren't I? Getting close, and then, don't. Ethan moved closer. Don't do that thing where you decide what's best for everyone else without asking them. Is that what I'm doing? It's what you're about to do. I can see it in your shoulders, the way they're squaring up like you're preparing for retreat. She finally looked at him, and he saw surprise in her eyes. You've been watching my shoulders. I've been watching all of you, he admitted. The way you bite your lip when you're concentrating on piano. How you unconsciously stand at parade rest when you're nervous. The way your whole face changes when Noah makes you laugh. Ethan, I know this is complicated. I know you're dealing with loss and trauma, and I'm dealing with custody battles and grief, and we're both messes. But Mara, these past 3 weeks, I've felt more alive than I have in 2 years. She set down the wrench carefully, precisely like she was defusing a bomb. I have my VA appointment Monday. I know. In Portland. I know that too. I might need treatment. Inpatient possibly. PTSD doesn't just go away because you've found a nice family to play house with. The words stung, but Ethan recognized them for what they were: defensive fire meant to create distance. Is that what you think you're doing? Playing house? Isn't it? She turned back to the engine. I'm wearing your dead wife's clothes, teaching your son piano, pretending I belong here when we both know I'm just passing through. Sarah's clothes look better on you than they did on her, Ethan said quietly. She would have said so herself. She had no hips, always complained about it. And you're not teaching Noah piano, you're giving him a way to process his grief that I never could. As for belonging, he touched her shoulder, gently felt her tense, then slowly relax. Maybe belonging isn't about permanence. Maybe it's about being present when it matters. She turned to face him fully, and in the dim workshop light, he could see tears she wouldn't let fall. I don't know how to do this. Do what? Care about people again. Every time Noah smiles at me, every time you bring me coffee without me asking, every time I feel safe here, it terrifies me, because I know how quickly it can all disappear. One IED, one diagnosis, one phone call, and everything changes. But that's always true, Ethan said. Sarah and I thought we had 40 years ahead of us. Tommy's mom thought she'd see him at Christmas. The only guarantee is right now. Is that supposed to be comforting? It's supposed to be honest. She laughed short and sharp. You know what Tommy told me once? He said the worst part about being in a war zone wasn't the danger, it was knowing that life was happening without him back home. His sister had a baby he'd never met. His dad sold the hardware store he'd grown up in. His ex-girlfriend got married. He said sometimes he felt like a ghost haunting the edges of a life he used to have. Is that how you feel? I did, until I knocked on your door and Noah asked if I'd escaped from somewhere, and you gave me soup that tasted like hope. She wiped her hands on a rag, leaving new grease stains. I don't feel like a ghost here. I feel real. Too real. Real enough to hurt when I leave. Then don't leave. It's not that simple. Isn't it? Before she could answer, headlights swept across the workshop windows. It was past midnight. No one should be coming by at this hour. They both tensed Mara's hand unconsciously, moving to her hip, where a weapon would have been. Ethan recognized the car. It was Mike from the garage, which made no sense at this hour. Mike got out, and even from a distance, Ethan could see his agitation. Ethan? Thank God you're up. I need to talk to you. They met him at the workshop door. Mike looked between them, took in their closeness, but didn't comment. What's wrong? Ethan asked. Richard Walsh came by the shop today. Started asking questions about that broken-down Honda on Highway 26, wanting to know whose it was, how long it had been there. Then he started asking about her. He nodded at Mara. Wanted to know if she had a record, if the car was stolen, if I'd run any background checks. What did you tell him? Mara's voice was steady, but Ethan saw her hands clench. Nothing. Told him it was none of his damn business. But Ethan, he's digging, and he's got that lawyer with him taking notes. They're building something. Building what? Ethan asked, though he already knew. A case. They're going to paint Mara as some dangerous drifter you've irresponsibly led into Noah's life. Mike looked apologetic. I just thought you should know, and maybe get your own lawyer. After Mike left, they stood in the workshop in silence. Finally, Mara spoke. I should go, tonight, before they can use me against you. No. Ethan, be practical. I'm a liability. Unknown woman with PTSD. No job. No permanent address. You're a decorated Army captain with 3 tours of service to this country. You're helping Noah process his grief in ways I never could. He stopped, ran his hand through his hair. You're the first person who's made this house feel like home since Sarah died. That won't matter to a judge if Richard spins it right. Then we don't let him spin it. Ethan pulled out his phone. Sarah's cousin is a family lawyer in Eugene. It's time I called her. It's past midnight. Then she'll know it's serious. The next morning brought rain and a phone call from Jennifer at CPS. She wanted to schedule a follow-up visit this time when Noah would be home. The appointment was set for Tuesday, right after Mara's VA appointment. I won't be here, Mara said after Ethan hung up. The appointment could take all day. Then we reschedule. No, this is more important. Show them stability. Show them Noah's routine isn't dependent on me being here. But Noah had overheard. You're leaving on Tuesday. Just for the day, Mara assured him. I have a doctor's appointment in Portland. For your war stuff. She blinked at his directness. Yeah, for my war stuff. Will they fix you? Noah? Ethan warned, but Mara held up a hand. I'm not broken, Noah. Just hurt. And sometimes hurt takes time to heal. Like how Dad still hurt about Mom. Something like that. Noah considered this. Maybe you should both go to the doctor. Out of the mouths of babes, Ethan thought. That weekend, Sarah's cousin Lisa drove up from Eugene. She was a small woman with Sarah's same determined jaw and sharp intelligence. She reviewed everything the CPS visit Richard's threats in Mara's presence. Okay, Lisa said after 2 hours of questions. Here's the situation. Grandparents' rights in Oregon are limited. They'd have to prove you're unfit, which, from what I'm seeing, would be nearly impossible. You're employed. Noah's grades are good. The house is stable. But Ethan could hear the but coming. But Richard Walsh has money and influence. He can drag this out, make your life hell, force you to spend money you don't have on legal fees. Unless what? Lisa glanced at Mara. Unless you present such a strong front that he realizes he can't win. Courts favor stability for children. If you can show that Noah has a strong support system, that his life is enriched, not diminished by the current arrangement, Richard might back down. How do we do that, Mo? Character witnesses for one. Teachers, neighbors, anyone who can speak to your parenting. And she hesitated. It wouldn't hurt if Mara's situation was more defined. Defined how? Mara asked. Right now you're a house guest with no clear role. Are you a tenant? An employee? Lisa paused delicately. Romantic partner. The court likes clarity. Ethan felt heat rise in his face. We're friends. Friends don't usually look at each other the way you two have been for the past hour, Lisa said bluntly. Look, I'm not saying you need to define your relationship for my benefit, but Richard's lawyer will ask, and you need an answer that doesn't make you look unstable or opportunistic. After Lisa left promising to file paperwork to get ahead of any custody petition, Ethan found Mara packing her duffel bag. What are you doing? Getting ready for Monday. I might need to stay in Portland for a few days, depending on what they say. That's not what you're doing. You're pre-leaving, packing now so it hurts less later. She stopped folding a shirt, one of Sarah's shirts. Maybe I am. Maybe that's smarter. Smarter for who? For everyone. Lisa's right. I'm a complication you don't need right now. You're not a complication, Ethan said, frustrated. I'm what? She turned to face him fully. What am I, Ethan? Because I don't know anymore. I'm not a soldier, I left that behind. I'm not Tommy's girlfriend, he's gone. I'm not really Noah's teacher or your house guest or... He kissed her. It wasn't planned or gentle. It was 3 weeks of accumulated tension and fear and hope colliding. For a moment she froze, then she was kissing him back, her hands fisting in his shirt. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, she whispered, "This is a terrible idea." Probably. Noah could get hurt. He's already hurt. We all are. Maybe that's okay. Maybe that's how we know we're alive. She looked at him for a long moment, then slowly, deliberately unpacked the duffel bag, hanging Sarah's clothes back in the guest room closet. Sunday was unseasonably sunny, one of those perfect autumn days that made the Pacific Northwest feel like paradise. They took Noah to the coast, driving an hour to reach the beaches at Cannon Beach. Noah ran ahead chasing seagulls, while Ethan and Mara walked more slowly, not quite touching, but close enough that their hands occasionally brushed. Sarah loved it here, Ethan said, watching Noah explore tide pools. She used to say the ocean reminded her that some things were bigger than cancer. Tommy would have loved it. He'd never seen the ocean before joining up. The first time we flew over the Atlantic, he pressed his nose to the window like a kid. They found a large piece of driftwood and sat watching Noah build elaborate sandcastles with the focused intensity of an architect. I'm scared, Mara admitted suddenly. About tomorrow. What if they want to hospitalize me? What if they say I'm too damaged to be around Noah? Then we deal with it, together. You keep saying that word. Together. Because I mean it. She leaned into him slightly, and he wrapped an arm around her shoulders. They sat like that watching Noah and the waves, pretending for a moment that they were just a normal family on a beach day. That evening, Noah insisted on making dinner for Mara's going away to the doctor meal. It was spaghetti with jarred sauce and garlic bread that was slightly burned, but Mara declared it the best meal she'd had in months. When I come back, she told Noah, I'll teach you how to make the sauce from scratch, my Italian grandmother's recipe. You promise you're coming back? Noah asked. I promise I'll try. That's not a real promise. Mara looked at Ethan, then back at Noah. Okay, I promise I'm coming back, even if it's just to teach you about sauce. That night after Noah was asleep, Ethan found Mara on the porch looking at the stars. Can't sleep. Thinking about Tommy. He loves stars. Said they were the same ones his family saw in Kentucky, made him feel connected. She paused. I need to visit his grave. His mom asked me to in her letter. I've been putting it off. Where is it? Arlington. His mom wanted him somewhere official, somewhere that acknowledged what he gave. We could go, all of us. Make a trip of it. She turned to look at him. You'd do that? Mara, I'd do pretty much anything for you at this point. I thought that was obvious. Nothing about this is obvious. We barely know each other. I know you take your coffee black but add sugar when you're stressed. I know you play piano when you can't find words for what you're feeling. I know you check on Noah 3 times every night, adjusting his blankets. I know you're brave and broken and beautiful, and you make me want to be better than I am. But Ethan, I know it's too fast and too complicated and probably doomed, but I also know that when you're here, the house feels alive again. When you laugh, Noah lights up. When you look at me, I remember who I was before grief made me small. She was crying now, silent tears that caught starlight. I don't know how to be what you need. You already are. Just by being here. Just by being you. He pulled her close, and she let him, her face pressed against his chest, his chin resting on her hair. They stayed like that until the cold drove them inside. Monday morning came too soon. Mara was dressed in her uniform the first time she'd worn it since arriving. It transformed her, made her look official and distant. Why the uniform? Noah asked over breakfast. Sometimes it helps to remember who you were when you're trying to figure out who you're becoming, she said. That doesn't make sense. It will when you're older. Ethan drove her to Portland, the truck feeling empty with just the two of them. They didn't talk much, both lost in their own concerns about what the day would bring. The VA hospital was a massive complex, impersonal and intimidating. Ethan walked her to the entrance, wanting to go in with her, but knowing this was something she had to do alone. I'll be here, he said, however long it takes. You don't have to wait. I want to. Besides, I brought work. He indicated his laptop bag. I can design cabinets anywhere. She kissed him then, quick and fierce in full view of everyone. For luck, she said, and walked through the doors before he could respond. The waiting was agony. Ethan tried to work but found himself staring at the entrance, willing her to emerge. He called to check on Noah, who was at school, called Lisa about the custody paperwork, called Mike about the Mustang parts they'd ordered. Finally, after 4 hours, Mara emerged. She looked exhausted, but somehow lighter, like she'd set down something heavy. How was it? He asked, taking her hands. Hard. Really hard. But good, I think. She showed him a prescription bag and appointment card. Medication for the nightmares and anxiety. Weekly therapy appointments. They wanted to admit me, but I convinced them outpatient would work if I had a stable environment. And do you have a stable environment? She looked at him. Really looked at him. Yeah, I think I do. On the drive home, she told him about the session, how she'd finally talked about Tommy's death in detail, about the guilt of surviving when he didn't, about the anger at the war, at the army, at God, about the fear that she'd never feel whole again. The doctor said something that stuck with me, she said. She said trauma doesn't have to define us, but pretending it doesn't exist doesn't make it go away. We have to integrate it, make it part of our story without letting it be the whole story. Sounds wise. Sarah would have said the same thing, I think. Yeah, she would have. They pulled into the driveway to find a familiar black town car parked there. Richard and Patricia were on the porch with Jennifer from CPS and a man in a suit who could only be their lawyer. "Stay calm," Ethan murmured to Mara. "We knew this was coming." Noah was there too, standing in the doorway looking small and frightened. When he saw them, he ran to Ethan, throwing his arms around his father's waist. "They made Mrs. Patterson let them take me out of school," he said, voice muffled against Ethan's shirt. "They said it was important." "It's okay, buddy. Everything's okay." Richard stepped forward. "We need to talk. Inside." The meeting was a carefully orchestrated ambush. Richard's lawyer, a sharp-faced man named Brennan, laid out their concerns in clinical detail. Ethan's work schedule, the recent CPS visit, and especially Mara's presence. "An unknown woman with admitted PTSD living in the home," Brennan said. "Surely you can see how concerning that is." "Captain Lewis is a decorated veteran," Ethan countered, "and a friend who's been helping with Noah." "Helping how exactly?" Patricia asked. "Because from what we've seen, she's confusing him. He calls her his teacher. His friend says she's staying forever. What happens when she leaves? How much more loss can that child take?" "I'm right here," Noah said suddenly. "Stop talking about me like I'm not here." Everyone turned to look at him. "I know Mara might leave. I know Dad's sad about Mom. I know you think Dad can't take care of me. But you're wrong." His voice was shaking but determined. "Dad makes me breakfast every day. He helps with homework even when he's tired. He built me a dragon bed and tells me stories and never misses my school stuff. And Mara makes him smile, real smiles, not the fake ones he's been doing. She teaches me piano and helps with math and makes Dad eat lunch. She makes us better." "Noah," Richard started, but Noah wasn't finished. "You want me to live with you because you miss Mom, but I'm not Mom. I'm me, and I want to stay here, with Dad, and with Mara if she wants to stay. This is my home. This is my family." The silence was deafening. Finally, Jennifer spoke. "Mr. Walsh." "Mrs. Walsh, I've done 2 evaluations now. I see no evidence of neglect or danger. What I see is a child who's grieving but stable, a father who's doing his best, and a support system that's helping them both heal." "But," Patricia started. "I'll be recommending no further action," Jennifer continued. "If you pursue custody, my report will reflect that." Richard's face went red. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is," Mara said quietly. Everyone looked at her. "You're not angry about Noah's living situation. You're angry that your daughter is gone and you need someone to blame. I understand that. I've been angry too, but targeting Ethan won't bring Sarah back. It'll just hurt the people she loved most." "You didn't know her," Patricia said, tears starting. "No, but I know her son. I see her in his kindness, his curiosity. I know her husband, see how much he loved her and the way he's preserved her memory while still moving forward. And I know she'd be heartbroken to see her family torn apart like this." Patricia broke down then, sobbing. Richard put his arm around her, his own eyes wet. "We just miss her so much," Patricia whispered. "We all do," Ethan said gently. "But Noah needs grandparents, not adversaries. Be part of his life the right way. Come for dinner, take him to the zoo, share your memories of Sarah, but don't try to take him away. That's not what she would want." It took another hour of discussion, tears, and tentative agreements, but eventually the Walshes left with a promise to call about dinner next week. Jennifer left with paperwork closing the case. The lawyer left looking disappointed at the lack of billable conflict. That night, emotionally exhausted, they sat around the kitchen table eating pizza from a box too tired to cook. Noah was wedged between Ethan and Mara, still clingy from the day's trauma. "Mara," he said suddenly, "are you going to marry Dad?" Ethan choked on his pizza. Mara carefully set down her slice. "Why do you ask that?" she said carefully. "Because Jason's mom got remarried and he said it was weird at first, but now it's good because his stepdad makes his mom laugh and fixes things." He looked between them. "You make Dad laugh and you fix the truck." "It's complicated, buddy," Ethan said. "Adults always say that when they don't want to answer." Mara laughed, surprising them all. "You're right. Okay, honest answer, I don't know. Your dad and I care about each other and we care about you. But marriage is a big decision that takes time." "How much time?" "I don't know that either. Noah considered this. But you're staying, right? You promised. I'm staying. Then we can figure out the rest later. From the mouths of babes, Ethan thought again. After Noah went to bed, Ethan and Mara sat on the couch, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her. That was intense, she said. Which part? The custody ambush or the marriage proposal via 9-year-old? Both. All of it. She shifted to look at him. He's not wrong, though. We should probably talk about what this is. What do you want it to be? I want... She paused, choosing words carefully. I want to wake up here. I want to teach Noah piano and help with the Mustang and fight with you about who makes better coffee. I want to go to therapy and get better, but not alone. I want to visit Tommy's grave and know that I'm honoring him by living, not just surviving. I want to try. Just try. That's all any of us can do, right? Try and see what happens. He kissed her forehead. Then we try. 2 weeks passed after the confrontation with the Walshes, and life settled into something resembling normalcy, though Ethan knew better than to trust it completely. Mara had moved her few belongings from the guest room to his room, a transition that happened gradually. First a toothbrush, then clothes in his closet. Then one night, she simply didn't go back to the guest room after they'd stayed up talking until dawn. Noah had accepted this development with the straightforward pragmatism of children asking only if this meant Mara was staying forever now. When neither adult could give him a definitive answer, he'd shrugged and said, well, at least for now is better than not at all. The therapy was working slowly. Mara still woke with nightmares, but less frequently, and when she did, Ethan was there to hold her until the shaking stopped. She'd started running less compulsively, sometimes choosing to help him in the workshop, instead learning woodworking with the same focused intensity she brought to everything. You're good at this, Ethan told her one afternoon as she carefully sanded a cabinet door. Natural feel for the grain. It's peaceful, she said. Predictable. Wood doesn't explode. It just becomes what you help it become. They were working in comfortable silence when Ethan's phone rang. It was Lisa, his lawyer cousin. The Walshes have withdrawn their custody petition, she said without preamble. Officially, Richard called me this morning. Ethan felt his knees go weak with relief. Just like that? Apparently, Patricia had a change of heart. She told Richard that Sarah wouldn't want this, that she'd been letting grief make her cruel. They want to rebuild the relationship gradually if you're willing. After he hung up, Ethan told Mara the news. She hugged him tight and he felt her tears against his neck. It's over, she whispered. You're safe. Noah's safe. We're safe, he corrected. That evening, they celebrated with Noah's favorite dinner tacos with all the fixings. Noah was practically bouncing in his chair as they told him about his grandparents' decision. So they're not mad anymore? He asked. They were never really mad, Mara explained. They were sad and scared, and sometimes those feelings come out looking like anger. Like when I threw my backpack that time after Mom died. Exactly like that, Ethan said, remembering the incident Noah, 7 years old and overwhelmed, hurling his backpack across the room and screaming that it wasn't fair. It hadn't been about the backpack or even the homework inside it. It had been about the unfairness of losing his mother. Grandma called earlier, Noah said suddenly. While you were in the workshop, she wants to come for Thanksgiving. Ethan and Mara exchanged glances. Thanksgiving was 3 weeks away. What did you tell her? Ethan asked. I said I'd ask you, but I think we should say yes. Mom always said Thanksgiving was about being grateful for family, even when family is complicated. Out of the mouths of babes, yet again. The next morning brought an unexpected visitor. Ethan was working on a custom order when a rental car pulled into the driveway. A woman got out mid-50s, graying hair, wearing the kind of practical clothes that suggested she'd driven a long way. Mara was the first to reach the door, and Ethan saw her go rigid when she saw the woman. Mrs. Reeves. Mara's voice was barely a whisper. Tommy's mother. Ethan moved to stand beside Mara, not touching, but close enough to offer support. Hello, Mara, the woman said, and her voice was kind, tired, heavy with the same grief Ethan recognized from his own mirror. I hope it's okay that I came. I got your address from your unit commander. Of course. Please come in. They sat in the living room, Mara and Mrs. Reeves on the couch, Ethan in the armchair. Noah was at school, which seemed like a mercy this felt too heavy for a child to witness. "You look well," Mrs. Reeves said, studying Mara's face. "Tommy worried you wouldn't take care of yourself when you got home. He talked about me all the time. Every call, every letter. Mara said this, Mara did that. His father used to joke that we knew more about you than some of our own relatives." Mara's hands were clenched in her lap. "Mrs. Reeves, I'm so sorry. The convoy route I should have—" "Stop!" The older woman's voice was firm. "Tommy's commanding officer already told me everything. How you fought for a different route. How you tried to put yourself in the lead vehicle instead. How you held him while—" She stopped, composed herself. "You didn't kill my son, Mara. The war did. And he knew the risks. We all did. He was supposed to come home." "And you were supposed to come home together, but life doesn't follow our supposed twos, does it?" Mrs. Reeves pulled something from her bag, a small wooden box. "He left this for you, with instructions to give it to you if anything happened." Mara took the box with shaking hands. Inside was a simple silver necklace with a small compass charm and a letter. "I'll give you privacy," Mrs. Reeves said, standing. "No, please stay." Mara opened the letter, reading aloud in a voice that trembled. "Mara, if you're reading this, then I didn't make it home, and I need you to know some things. First, stop blaming yourself. I can feel you doing it from beyond or wherever I am. Second, thank you for seeing me as more than just some kid from Kentucky, for making the worst place in the world bearable, for being the reason I could be brave. I bought the compass and cobble from that vendor who always flirted with you. It's so you don't lose your way when you get home. Because you need to get home, Mara. Really get home. Not just physically, but all the way. Find something good. Find someone who sees you the way I did, like you're made of steel and starlight. Don't let my death be the end of your story. Let it be a chapter. Maybe even an important one, but not the last one. Live, Mara. Live enough for both of us. All my love. Tommy, P.S. Tell my mom her cookies were the best thing about mail call, and tell her I wasn't scared, even if it's not true." The room was silent except for soft crying, both women now, and Ethan felt his own eyes burning. "Were you scared?" Mrs. Reeves asked. "He was, wasn't he?" "We all were," Mara said. "But he was also brave, the bravest person I knew. He sang right up until—" "He sang?" Mrs. Reeves nodded, seeming to find comfort in this. "He always sang when he was nervous, even as a little boy." She looked at Ethan for the first time. "You must be the reason she looks better. Tommy would be glad." "This is Ethan," Mara said. "He and his son Noah, they've given me a place to land." "To stay," Ethan corrected gently. "Not just land." Mrs. Reeves smiled the first real smile since she'd arrived. "Good. That's good." She stood to leave. "I'm driving up to Seattle spreading some of Tommy's ashes in the Sound. He always wanted to see the Pacific Northwest. Would you—" Mara stopped, started again. "Would you like to stay for dinner? Noah would love to meet you, and you could tell us stories about Tommy as a kid." "I'd like that," Mrs. Reeves said. That evening became one of those unexpected gifts that emerge from grief. Mrs. Reeves told stories about Tommy's childhood, the time he'd tried to baptize the cat, his obsession with becoming a ninja, the way he'd practiced singing in the barn because he was too shy to let anyone hear him at first. Noah was captivated, asking endless questions about the war, about Kentucky, about what it was like to have a son who was a hero. "He wasn't a hero," Mrs. Reeves said gently. "He was just a good boy doing his best in an impossible situation. Real heroes are the ones who come home and have to figure out how to keep living. Like Mara." After Mrs. Reeves left for her hotel, promising to stop by again on her way back from Seattle, Mara stood in the backyard looking at the stars. Ethan joined her, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "You okay?" "He wanted me to live," she said. "Really live, not just survive." "Are you living?" She turned in his arms to face him. "I'm starting to, I think. This place you and Noah, it's giving me reasons to want tomorrow to come. Just tomorrow. Next week, too. Maybe even next month." She touched his face gently. "Is it wrong that I'm starting to be happy? It feels like betrayal sometimes being okay when Tommy can't be. Sarah and I had this conversation once during chemo. She made me promise to fall in love again if she died. I told her that was morbid, but she said the only thing worse than her dying would be if her death killed my ability to love. She said grief shouldn't be a life sentence. Smart woman. She would have liked you. She would have loved that you're teaching Noah music, helping him process his feelings. She would have... He paused, throat tight. She would have chosen you for us, I think. They went inside to find Noah at the piano practicing the Chopin piece Mara had been teaching him. It was still halting, imperfect, but the emotion was there, the longing, the sorrow, the hope underneath it all. That was beautiful, buddy, Ethan said when Noah finished. Mara says music is how we say things that are too big for words. He looked at them. Is Mrs. Reeves okay? She's sad, Mara said honestly, but she's strong, like you were when your mom died. Will she be okay? Eventually, with time and help and people who care about her. Like you're okay now. Mara considered this. I'm getting there. Good, Noah said simply, then added, I'm glad you stayed. The next few days fell into a rhythm of unusual peace. Mara went to her therapy appointments coming back drained but incrementally lighter. Ethan worked on his orders, sometimes joined by Mara, who was becoming surprisingly skilled with wood. Noah practiced piano daily, preparing for a school talent show he'd decided to enter. It was the Tuesday before Thanksgiving when everything shifted again. Ethan was in the workshop when he heard Mara on the phone, her voice professional and crisp. When she found him afterward, her face was unreadable. That was the VA, she said. They have a job for me if I want it. Working with returning veterans, helping with reintegration. It's at the Portland facility, but I could mostly work remotely, just go in twice a week. That's amazing, Chuck, Ethan said, though his stomach clenched at the thought of her being away even 2 days a week. It is. It's exactly what I wanted to do eventually. Use my experience to help others coming home. She paused. But it means putting down roots, getting an apartment in Portland for the nights I need to stay over, making a real life instead of just hiding in yours. You're not hiding. You're healing. There's a difference. Maybe at first. But Ethan, we both know I can't live in your wife's clothes forever. Can't keep being the woman who showed up in the rain. At some point, I have to figure out who I am now. And you can't do that here. I can do it with you and Noah. But I need something that's mine too. Does that make sense? It did. Even though Ethan wanted to protest to keep her safe in their bubble where the outside world couldn't intrude. But that wasn't fair to her, and it wasn't real. When would it start? January. They want me to finish my treatment program first, get fully stable. That's good. That's smart. But she moved closer to him, sawdust motes dancing in the light between them. This doesn't change how I feel about you. About us. I know. Do you? Because you have that look the same one you had when the Walshes showed up, like you're bracing for loss. Hard habit to break. Then let me be clear. She took his face in her hands. I love you, Ethan Cole. I love your complicated grief and your terrible morning breath and the way you hum when you're concentrating. I love your son who asks too many questions and plays piano like he's telling secrets. I love this life we're building from broken pieces. Taking a job doesn't mean I'm leaving. It means I'm staying, really staying, building something permanent enough to need my own foundation. He kissed her, then deep and desperate and full of relief. When they broke apart, he said, I love you too. I didn't think I could again, but here we are. Here we are, she agreed. That night they told Noah about the job over dinner. His reaction was immediate panic. You're leaving, but you promised. I'm not leaving, Mara assured him. I'm taking a job. I'll be gone 2 days a week, but I'll always come back. That's what Mom said when she went to the hospital. The words hung in the air like a physical blow. Ethan reached for Noah, but the boy pulled away. Noah, Mara said gently. You're right. Sometimes people don't come back even when they promise. But most of the time they do. Your dad goes to work and comes back. You go to school and come back. This is like that. But what if it's not? Then we deal with it. But we can't live our whole lives afraid of what ifs. That's not living, that's just waiting for bad things to happen. Noah was crying now, silent tears streaming down his face. I don't want to lose anyone else. Oh, buddy. Ethan pulled him close, and this time Noah let him. Neither do I. But we can't keep people by holding them so tight they can't breathe. We have to trust. Trust is hard. The hardest? Mara agreed, joining their embrace. But I'll tell you a secret, it gets easier with practice. They spent the rest of the evening in the living room, Noah curled between them on the couch, watching a movie about dragons because Noah said dragons were never afraid of anything. That's not true, Mara said. Dragons are afraid. They just breathe fire at their fear. Is that what you did in the war? Breathed fire at fear? Something like that. Is that what we're doing now? Ethan and Mara exchanged glances over Noah's head. Yeah, buddy, Ethan said. I think that's exactly what we're doing. Thanksgiving arrived with unexpected snow, just a dusting, but enough to transform Maple Hollow into something from a Christmas card. The Walshes arrived at noon, awkward and formal at first, carrying too many dishes, as if food could bridge the gap their grief had created. But Noah, in his infinite childhood wisdom, broke the ice by immediately dragging his grandmother to the piano to show her what Mara had taught him. As the Chopin nocturne filled the house, Patricia began to cry. Sarah played that, she whispered. When she was in high school, she said it made her think of beautiful, sad things. Mara says that's what it's supposed to do, Noah said. Make sadness beautiful so it doesn't hurt so much. Patricia looked at Mara, then really looked at her for the first time. Thank you for teaching him, for being here. Thank you for raising a daughter who created this family, Mara replied. The love in this house that's Sarah's legacy. Richard cleared his throat roughly. We brought photo albums. Thought maybe Noah would like to see pictures of Sarah when she was his age. They spent the afternoon going through albums, Richard and Patricia telling stories about Sarah's childhood. Her first piano recital, the time she tried to save every stray cat in the neighborhood. How she'd insisted on wearing a tutu to grocery stores for an entire year. She was stubborn, Patricia said, smiling through tears. Just like Noah. I get it from both sides, Noah said proudly. Dad's stubborn too. Don't I know it, Richard said, and for the first time since Sarah's death, he smiled at Ethan without judgment. Dinner was a careful dance of politeness that gradually relaxed into something approaching normal. Mara had made her grandmother's sauce, after all, and Patricia complimented it extensively. Richard asked about Ethan's work, genuinely interested rather than looking for fault. Noah entertained everyone with stories from school, his natural cheerfulness infectious. After dinner, while the women cleared dishes despite Ethan's protest that guests shouldn't clean, Richard pulled him aside. I owe you an apology, he said quietly. Several, actually. I let my grief turn into anger and I aimed it at you because you were here and Sarah wasn't. You don't need to... Yes, I do. You're a good father, Ethan. Sarah knew it, and I should have trusted her judgment. And Mara... He glanced toward the kitchen where Mara was teaching Patricia her sauce recipe. She's good for you both. Sarah would approve. You think... I know. Sarah always said the worst thing about dying young was all the living that wouldn't get done. She'd want you doing this living, loving, moving forward. Not moving on, but forward. There's a difference. Yeah, there is. Richard clapped him on the shoulder, the most physical affection he'd ever shown Ethan. Take care of them. All of them. I will. After the Walshes left with promises to come for Christmas and to have Noah over for a weekend soon, the three of them collapsed on the couch, exhausted from the emotional labor of the day. That went better than expected, Mara said. They liked you, Noah said. Grandma whispered to me that you were good for us. Did she? Yeah. And Grandpa said Dad looked happy. Real happy, not pretend happy. Out of the mouths of babes and grandparents, Ethan muttered. That night after Noah was in bed, Ethan found Mara in what had become her spot, the back porch, looking at the stars. But this time she wasn't alone with ghosts. She was looking at the compass necklace Tommy's mother had brought, turning it in the porch light. True north, she said when Ethan sat beside her. That's what Tommy used to call me. Said I helped him remember which way was up when everything was chaos. You do that for us too. And you do it for me. Maybe that's what love is, being each other's compass. When did you get so philosophical? Therapy. Turns out talking about your feelings for an hour twice a week makes you think about them. They sat in comfortable silence, the night sounds of Oregon surrounding them, wind in the trees, a distant owl, the creak of the house settling. I want to go to Arlington, Mara said suddenly, to see Tommy's grave, to say goodbye properly, to tell him about you and Noah, about the life I'm building. I think he'd want to know. When? Soon, before I start the job, before the new year, like closing one chapter before starting another. We'll go with you. You don't have to yet. We want to. Noah's never been to D.C. We could make it educational. See the monuments, the museums. A family trip to a cemetery. How morbid. A family trip to honor someone who mattered to someone who matters to us. How loving. She leaned into him and he felt her smile against his shoulder. When did you get so philosophical? Must be contagious. The next few weeks passed in preparation. Mara had more interviews with the VA finalizing her position. She found a small apartment in Portland for the night she'd need to stay over, though she'd yet to spend a night there. Noah's talent show was coming up, and he practiced constantly, the Chopin piece becoming more fluid, more his own interpretation. It was 2 weeks before Christmas when they made the trip to Arlington. The flight was Noah's first, and he spent it with his nose pressed to the window, marveling at clouds from above. Mara held Ethan's hand during takeoff, not from fear of flying, but from the weight of what they were flying toward. Arlington was overwhelming in its precision white headstones in perfect rows like soldiers still in formation. They found Tommy's grave after consulting the map section 60, where the recent casualties from Iraq and Afghanistan were buried. Thomas James Reeves, Noah read from the headstone. Purple Heart, Bronze Star. He looked up at Mara. He was a hero. He was, she agreed, kneeling to place flowers they'd brought. And he was also just a person who liked terrible jokes and couldn't carry a tune, but sang anyway. She talked to the stone, then introducing Ethan and Noah, telling Tommy about the house in Oregon, about teaching piano and learning woodworking, about healing and hurting and slowly finding her way. I'm using the compass, she said finally, finding true north. It doesn't look like either of us expected, but it's good. It's really good. I think you'd be happy for me. Noah, with the intuitive understanding children sometimes possess, started humming not the Chopin but something simpler, a melody Mara had taught him. After a moment, Mara joined him, their voices soft in the December air. When they were done, Noah asked, Do you think he heard, I think the people we love always hear us one way or another, Mara said. They spent 3 days in D.C. doing all the tourist things, the Smithsonian, the monuments, the Capitol. Noah was enchanted by everything, his curiosity inexhaustible. But it was the Vietnam Memorial that stopped them, all the black wall with its endless names. So many, Noah said quietly. Too many, Ethan agreed. But people still remember them, Noah pointed out, indicating the flowers and letters left at the wall. That matters, right, being remembered. It matters, Mara confirmed. But living matters more. That's what they'd want for us to live. The flight home from D.C. was turbulent, the plane bucking through winter storms that had Noah gripping Ethan's hand while Mara told him stories about jumping from planes in worse weather. By the time they landed in Portland, all three were exhausted, but there was something settled about Mara now, a peace that hadn't been there before Arlington. The next morning brought an unexpected call. It was from a law firm in Phoenix asking for Mara. She took the phone with confusion that quickly turned to shock. My parents' house? She said after hanging up. I'm still listed as the beneficiary. It's been sitting empty for 15 years. They want to know what I want to do with it. You still own it? Ethan asked. Apparently. I was so young when they died, and then the army became everything. I just forgot about it. The property taxes have been coming out of their life insurance automatically. She looked lost. I haven't been back since the funeral. Maybe it's time, Ethan suggested gently. Maybe. She was quiet for a moment. Would you come with me? Both of you. I don't think I can face it alone. 3 days later, they were driving through Arizona desert, the landscape so different from Oregon that Noah spent the entire drive asking questions about cacti and why the rocks were red and whether roadrunners were real or just in cartoons. The house sat on the outskirts of Phoenix, a modest ranch-style home with a yard that had gone wild with desert plants. The key was under a fake rock that had somehow survived 15 years of weather, and when Mara opened the door, time seemed to collapse. Everything was exactly as it had been. Furniture covered in dust sheets, family photos on the walls, her mother's piano in the corner. Mara stood frozen in the doorway until Noah took her hand. "It's okay," he said. "Houses remember love. This one remembers yours." Sometimes Ethan wondered if Noah was 9 or 90, the way wisdom fell from his mouth. They spent the afternoon uncovering memories. Mara's childhood bedroom still had posters of bands from the early 2000s, homework assignments on a desk, a teddy bear on the precisely made bed. "I left for college a week before they died," she said, touching the bear gently. "We had a fight about me joining ROTC. Dad wanted me to focus on school. Mom wanted me to be safe. I told them they didn't understand that I needed to serve something bigger than myself." She laughed, but it was hollow. "Last thing I said to them was that they were being overprotective. Then they died in a car crash while I was at freshman orientation." "That's not your fault," Ethan said. "I know, therapy taught me that, but knowing and feeling are different things." In her parents' room, they found photo albums, letters, a life interrupted but preserved. There was a letter addressed to Mara dated the day they died. "They were going to mail it to me at school," she said, recognizing her mother's handwriting. She read it silently, tears streaming down her face, then read it aloud. "Our dearest Mara, we're so proud of you. Not just for the ROTC, though we're proud of that too, despite our fears. We're proud of who you're becoming. Strong, determined, compassionate. Dad says to tell you that serving something bigger than yourself is noble, but don't forget to serve your own heart too. Find love, baby girl. Find laughter. Find home. The Army will shape you, but don't let it be all you are. Remember the music. Remember the joy. Remember that we love you beyond words, beyond worry, beyond death itself. Forever, Mom and Dad." Noah climbed into Mara's lap, something he rarely did anymore, claiming he was too big. "They knew," he said simply. "They knew you'd be amazing." That evening, they sat in the backyard watching the desert sunset paint the sky in colors Oregon never saw. Mara had found her father's guitar was picking out melodies she half remembered. "I could sell it," she said about the house. "Use the money for something practical." "You could," Ethan agreed. "Or," she paused, considering. "The VA job includes helping veterans find housing. This place could be transitional housing, a soft landing for people coming home. Dad would have loved that he was always taking in strays." "Like father, like daughter," Ethan said, and she smiled. "We could renovate it. You could design it, make it work for people who might be struggling. Multiple bedrooms, communal spaces, a workshop maybe. Well, I can't do it alone. And you're good at making broken things beautiful. Is that what I do?" She looked at him, really looked at him. "It's exactly what you do." They flew home 2 days later with a plan. Mara would keep the house and they'd spend spring break renovating it, turning her childhood home into a haven for other veterans finding their way back. Noah was already designing what he called a healing garden for the backyard, complete with a fountain, because water sounds make people calm. Christmas came gently that year. The Walshes joined them for Christmas Eve dinner. The awkwardness of Thanksgiving replaced by something approaching genuine family. Patricia taught Mara how to make Sarah's famous Christmas cookies, while Richard and Ethan assembled a bicycle for Noah in the garage, both pretending they knew what they were doing with the instructions. "Sarah would have loved this," Patricia said at one point, watching Noah and Mara at the piano working through Silent Night as a duet. "The music or Mara?" Ethan asked. "Both. All of it. The house being full again." She touched his arm gently. "She worried, near the end, worried about you and Noah being alone. I think she prayed for something like this." "Something like what?" "Someone strong enough to help carry the grief, but warm enough to kindle new joy. That's Mara, isn't it? Steel and starlight," I heard her say once. "That's from Tommy's letter. The soldier she lost." "Yes, she told me about him. Takes a special kind of courage to love after loss like that. You both have it, that courage. That night after everyone had gone home or to bed, Ethan found Mara sitting by the tree, the lights reflecting in her eyes. Penny, for your thoughts. Just thinking about circles, how I started this year planning to disappear, maybe even, well, darker thoughts than that. And now, here I am planning gardens and renovations and a future I can actually see. What do you see in that future? She turned to him. Honestly, this. More of this. Noah getting taller, probably mouthier. You getting gray in your beard. Me coming home from Portland with stories about the veterans I'm helping. Sunday dinners with your in-laws. Teaching more kids piano. Maybe getting married in that backyard. Nothing fancy, just family and friends and Noah as ring bearer. Is that a proposal? Do you want it to be? I want whatever you want. That's not an answer. Yes, he said simply. Yes to all of it. The gray beard, the mouthy teenager, the backyard wedding. Yes to building a life that honors who we've lost by fully living ourselves. She kissed him, then soft and certain. Then yes, it's a proposal. Shouldn't I be the one proposing? Why? Because you're the man very traditional of you. Because I already bought a ring. She pulled back, staring at him. You what? He reached behind the tree, pulling out a small wrapped box. It was going to be your Christmas present, but since you jumped the gun. Inside was a simple band with 3 stones and emerald flanked by 2 diamonds. The emerald is for your eyes, he explained. The diamonds are for Tommy and Sarah, so they're part of this too always. She was crying as he slipped it onto her finger. It's perfect. When did you... That day in D.C. when you and Noah went to the Air and Space Museum again. I saw it in a shop window and knew. How long have you been carrying this around? 2 weeks. Noah's been about to explode from keeping the secret. As if summoned by his name, Noah appeared on the stairs in his pajamas. Did she say yes? You're supposed to be asleep, Ethan said. Like, I could sleep knowing you were probably down here proposing wrong. How does one propose wrong? Mara asked, laughing through her tears. Dad was supposed to do it at midnight with the candles I helped set up in the workshop. You set up candles. It was romantic, Noah said defensively, but you guys rushed it. Sorry to ruin your plan, buddy, Mara said, holding out her hand to show the ring, but I got impatient. Noah examined the ring critically, then nodded approval. Does this mean I get to call you Mom now? The question hung in the air, delicate as spun glass. Do you want to? Mara asked carefully. Maybe not yet, but someday. Is that okay? That's perfect. Cool. Can I be ring bearer? I already promised you could be. Cool. He hugged them both, then headed back upstairs, calling back. The candles are probably a fire hazard, just saying. They rushed to the workshop to find dozens of tea lights, creating a golden glow, and in the center, the Mustang they'd been working on now fully restored with a bow on top. When did you finish this? Mara gasped. Noah and I have been sneaking out here while you're at therapy. We wanted to surprise you. It's your wedding present early. The car the memories we'll make in it, the road trips teaching Noah to drive in a few years, all of it. She walked around the Mustang, running her hands along the perfectly painted surface. It's beautiful. Sarah would be so happy. I think she is wherever she is. And Tommy, too. They stood in the candlelight, holding each other, surrounded by the warm scent of sawdust and the promise of tomorrow. Noah's talent show was 3 days after Christmas. The auditorium was packed with parents wielding phones to record their children. The Walshes sat in the front row with Ethan and Mara Patricia clutching Richard's hand nervously. He'll be fine, Mara assured her. He's been practicing so much I hear that Chopin in my sleep. But when Noah took the stage, he didn't sit at the piano immediately. Instead, he took the microphone. Hi, I'm Noah Cole. This year I learned that music can hold feelings that are too big for words. My mom died 2 years ago, and my dad and I were really sad. Then Mara came. She's right there. He pointed, making Mara sink lower in her seat. And she taught me that being sad is okay, but you can make sadness beautiful. This song is for my mom, who can't be here, for my dad, who stayed strong, and for Mara, who showed us that families can grow in unexpected ways. Then he sat and played. Not just the Chopin, but a medley he'd arranged himself, weaving the nocturne with Blackbird, and ending with something entirely his own, a melody that sounded like rain and hope and home. The auditorium erupted in applause, but Noah was already off the stage running to hug them all, his smile bright enough to power the whole town. "Did you like it? I changed some parts. Mrs. Patterson said it was okay to make it mine." "It was perfect," Ethan managed through his tears. "You made it yours," Mara said. "That's what music is supposed to be, yours." That night they celebrated at the local diner, the one that Ethan had mentioned that first night, the one with good pie. The owner who'd known Sarah brought out a special dessert when she heard about the engagement. "About time," she said, winking. "This town needs some happy news." Word spread as it does in small towns. By morning, everyone knew. Mike at the garage offered to tune up the Mustang for free as a wedding gift. Mrs. Patterson called to congratulate them and mentioned that the school could use a volunteer music teacher if Mara was interested. The mailman delivered packages with knowing smiles. New Year's Eve arrived with snow. Real snow this time, not just a dusting. They'd invited a small gathering, the Walshes, Mike and his wife, Mrs. Reeves, who'd driven up from California where she was visiting relatives, Jason's family, a few others who'd become part of their expanding circle. At 11:30, Noah was asleep on the couch, despite his insistence he could make it to midnight. The adults were scattered through the house, conversation flowing easily. Mara found Ethan in the kitchen refilling drinks. "Happy?" she asked. "More than I thought possible," he admitted. "You..." "Same. It's strange I spent so long thinking happiness was something I'd lost the right to. But maybe it's not about rights. Maybe it's about choosing to accept it when it finds you again." Very philosophical. Therapy is really working. Smart ass, but she was smiling. "I love you, you know." "I know. I love you too. Even when I leave towels on the bathroom floor. Even then. Even when I wake you up with nightmares. Especially then. That's when you need love most." The countdown began in the living room. They joined the others, Noah stirring just enough to mumble the last few numbers. At midnight, Ethan kissed Mara, while Noah made exaggerated gagging noises, and everyone laughed. "To new beginnings," Richard toasted, raising his glass. "To family however it forms," Patricia added. "To those who can't be here, but are anyway," Mrs. Reeves contributed. "To love after loss," Mara said. "To love because of loss," Ethan corrected. "Because it taught us how precious it is." January 2nd. Mara started her job at the VA. She left early Monday morning, kissing both her boys, as she'd started calling them goodbye and promising to call that evening. Noah stood at the window watching her drive away until Ethan distracted him with breakfast. "She'll be back," Noah said, more statement than question. "Tomorrow night." "I know, it's just weird her not being here. Change is weird, but it's also good sometimes. Like you and Mara getting married." Exactly like that. That evening, Mara called exhausted but excited. Her first day had been overwhelming, so many veterans, so many stories, so much need, but also so much possibility. "There's this one guy, 22, reminds me of Tommy. Lost his leg to an IED. He's so angry, Ethan, but under the anger, he's just scared. I knew exactly what to say because I've been there." "You're going to be amazing at this." "I hope so. I really hope so." She was. Within a month, she'd implemented a new program pairing recent veterans with those who'd been home longer, a buddy system for navigating the civilian world. She started a weekly music therapy session teaching piano to anyone who wanted to learn. The apartment in Portland became less a necessity and more a crash pad for the night she worked too late to drive safely home. February brought Valentine's Day and their decision to get married on Memorial Day weekend. "It feels right," Mara explained. "A day about remembering those we've lost, but also about moving forward." They kept the planning simple ceremony and the backyard reception in the workshop, which Noah insisted they decorate with 1,000 lights, only close friends and family. Mara asked Mrs. Reeves to walk her down the aisle. "Tommy would want me to," Mrs. Reeves asked through tears when Mara called. "Tommy would want you to be part of this. Your family now, all of us connected by love and loss and choosing to continue." March arrived with its false springs and sudden freezes, and with it came another surprise. Ethan had submitted photos of his work to a regional craftsman exhibition on a whim pushed by Mara, who said his talent deserved wider recognition. He'd won first place in furniture design. There's a cash prize, he told them over dinner. Enough to take a real honeymoon. Where would we go? Noah asked excitedly. Ethan teased. I don't remember inviting you on our honeymoon. Noah's face fell until Mara laughed. Of course you're coming. It's a family honeymoon. Where should we go? They spread maps across the kitchen table, debating destinations. Noah wanted to see the Grand Canyon. Mara thought maybe the coast of Maine. Ethan suggested Yellowstone. In the end, they decided on a road trip to hit all three, taking the restored Mustang and making memories mile by mile. April came with preparations and unexpected challenges. The Phoenix house renovation had hit snags, permits, zoning issues, contractors who disappeared. Mara was frustrated trying to manage it from Oregon while handling her increasing caseload at the VA. Let me help, Ethan said one evening, finding her surrounded by paperwork and looking ready to cry. You have your own work. My work can wait. This is our project, remember? We're a team now. Together they navigated the bureaucracy. Ethan's experience with construction, cutting through red tape Mara didn't even know existed. By month's end, renovation was back on track. Noah, meanwhile, had started asking difficult questions, not about the wedding or the changes, but about the future. One night, as Mara tucked him in, he asked, Will you and Dad have other kids? The question caught her off guard. I don't know. Would you want siblings? Maybe. I like being the only one sometimes, but Jason has a little sister and she's pretty cool even if she does steal his Halloween candy. Well, that's something Dad and I need to talk about. But Noah, no matter what happens, you'll always be our first, the one who brought us together. Nothing will change that. Promise. Promise. She found Ethan in their room and related the conversation. He listened, then asked, Do you want more kids? I don't know. I'm 34. It's possible, but… She paused. I never thought about kids before. The Army was everything then, Tommy then surviving. Now suddenly I have this whole life I didn't plan for, and the possibility of making it bigger is both terrifying and wonderful. We don't have to decide now. I know, but Noah asking made me realize it's something we should think about. What do you think? I think, she said slowly, that a year ago I wanted to disappear and now I'm discussing having babies with a man I'm marrying in 6 weeks. Life is very strange. The best kind of strange. May arrived with blooming flowers and controlled chaos. Patricia had taken over much of the wedding planning, her need to help finally channeled into something positive. She and Mara spent afternoons addressing invitations, tasting cakes, arguing gently about centerpieces. Sarah would have hated all this fuss, Patricia said one day, arranging flowers. But she would have loved seeing everyone together, Mara countered. True. She always said the best parties were the ones where love was palpable in the air. The week before the wedding, Mara's unit from Afghanistan surprised her. 5 of them drove up from California where they'd been having a mini reunion. They took over Ethan's living room, telling stories that had Mara laughing and crying in equal measure. You look good, Captain, her former sergeant said. Happy, stable. We worried about you after Tommy. You can say his name. We all loved him, you know, but we love you too, and seeing you like this building something new, it's good. It's what he would have wanted. That night after her unit had gone to their hotel, Mara sat with Tommy's compass necklace in her hand. I think I'm ready, she said to Ethan. Ready. To put this away. Not forget, just store it with the other precious things that shaped me, but don't define me anymore. She placed the necklace in a small box with her parents' wedding rings and her military medals. For Noah someday. So he knows the whole story of how his family came to be. The night before the wedding, they broke tradition. Instead of separating, they sat on the porch together, Noah between them looking at stars. Tomorrow everything changes, Noah said. No, Ethan corrected. Tomorrow we celebrate what's already changed. We're already a family. Tomorrow just makes it official. And gives us an excuse for cake, Mara added. The cake is pretty important, Noah agreed solemnly. Memorial Day dawned, perfect clear skies, warm but not hot. A light breeze carrying the scent of Patricia's carefully tended flowers. The backyard had been transformed with white chairs an arbor Noah and Ethan had built together, and enough string lights to be seen from space, according to Mike. Mara stood in what had been the guest room, now their room, while Patricia helped with her dress, simple, elegant. Nothing like the elaborate gown Sarah had worn, but perfect for who Mara was. "You're beautiful," Patricia said, tears already starting. "Both my daughters are beautiful." The word daughters hung between them, precious and intentional. "Thank you," Mara whispered, "for accepting me, for letting me into Sarah's family." "Oh, honey, you didn't come into Sarah's family. You helped create a new one that honors her memory while building its own future." Downstairs, Ethan was fighting with his tie while Noah, ring bearer and best man, rolled into one, tried to help. "Dad, you're making it worse. This is why I work with wood. Wood doesn't require ties." Richard appeared in the doorway, took in the situation, and stepped forward. "Let me." As his former father-in-law fixed his tie, Richard said quietly, "Sarah would be so happy today. Not jealous, not sad. Happy. You know that, right?" "I hope so. I know so. She told me once that love wasn't pie. Giving more to one person doesn't mean less for another. Love multiplies. That's what you've done here, Ethan. Multiplied love." The ceremony began with Noah walking down the aisle, carrying the rings on a pillow Sarah had embroidered years ago for a cousin's wedding. Then came Mara, escorted by Mrs. Reeves, both women crying and smiling. Ethan's breath caught, not because Mara looked beautiful, though she did, but because she looked like she belonged here in this moment, in this life they'd built from the ashes of their losses. Lisa, who'd gotten ordained online specifically for this, led them through vows they'd written themselves. Ethan went first. "Mara, you arrived in a storm and became my sunshine. You taught me that hearts can break and still keep beating, that families can form in unexpected ways, that love isn't diminished by loss but deepened by it. I promise to be your shelter, your witness, your partner in all things. I promise to honor who you were, celebrate who you are, and support who you're becoming." Mara's voice was steady despite her tears. "Ethan, you showed me kindness when I'd forgotten it existed. You gave me a home when I was lost, a purpose, when I was drifting a love I didn't think I deserved. I promise to choose you every morning, to stand beside you through whatever comes, to help raise Noah with patience and joy. I promise to build a life that makes our ghosts proud and our future bright." When Lisa pronounced them married and they kissed, Noah cheered loudest of all, then ran to join their embrace, making everyone laugh through their tears. The reception was a blur of laughter. Terrible dancing Ethan, surprisingly good dancing Mara's army unit, and speeches that ranged from hilarious Mike, talking about Mara fixing trucks, to heartfelt Mrs. Reeves welcoming Ethan and Noah to her extended family. But it was Noah's speech that stopped everyone. "My mom died 2 years ago." He began, his young voice clear in the evening air. "I thought our family was broken forever. But then Mara came and she didn't try to fix us. She just joined us, broken and all. And somehow 3 broken people made something whole. So I want to say thank you. To Mara for staying when she could have left. To Dad for being brave enough to love again. And to Mom and Tommy for sending us each other. I think they're probably dancing together somewhere, happy we found our way." There wasn't a dry eye in the yard. As the evening wound down and guests began leaving, Ethan found Mara standing by the Mustang, still in her wedding dress, but barefoot now, her shoes abandoned somewhere. "No regrets?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Not one. Only that we didn't meet sooner. But then we wouldn't have been ready. We needed our first loves to teach us how to love, and our losses to teach us how precious it is." "When did you get so wise?" "Somewhere between the rain and now." Noah appeared, yawning hugely. "Can we go home now?" "We are home," Mara said, looking at the house, the yard full of evidence of celebration, the life they'd built. "I mean inside home. I'm tired." They laughed, gathering him between them, walking toward the house that had sheltered grief and now held joy. "Tell us a story," Noah asked as they tucked him in, still in his tiny suit. "What kind of story?" Ethan asked. "The kind that starts sad but ends happy." Mara sat on one side of his bed, Ethan on the other. "Once upon a time," Mara began, "there was a soldier lost in a storm. And a carpenter who'd forgotten how to build anything but furniture," Ethan added. And a boy who missed his mother but was brave anyway, Noah contributed sleepily. And they found each other when they needed each other most, Mara continued, and decided that broken things could be beautiful, Ethan said. And lived happily ever after, Noah asked. And lived happily, Mara corrected. Ever after is a long time. But happily, yes, definitely happily. Noah was asleep before they finished, but they completed the story anyway for themselves. For the listening house, for the ghosts who'd brought them together, and the future spreading before them like an open road. Later in their room, still in wedding clothes, but too tired and happy to change, they stood at the window looking out at the yard where everything had changed. Thank you, Mara said. For what? For stopping that night, for seeing me, for being patient while I figured out how to be seen. Thank you for knocking on our door, for staying, for teaching us that families aren't just born, they're chosen and built and tended like gardens. Speaking of gardens, Noah wants to plant a tree tomorrow. A family tree, he called it. Of course he does. He's pretty wonderful, our son. Our son. Ethan repeated the word still new and precious. Our family. Our life. They stayed at the window watching clouds drift across stars. Two people who'd learned that love wasn't about replacing what was lost, but about having the courage to build something new from the pieces that remained. Tomorrow, they'd plant a tree. Next week, they'd leave for their family honeymoon. In the fall, Mara would help her first veteran move into the Phoenix house. There would be challenges and arguments and days when grief visited like an old friend. But tonight, in a house that had seen sorrow and chosen joy anyway, three people who'd found each other in the rain slept peacefully, their dreams full of roads not yet traveled and stories not yet told. And in the workshop, the Mustang waited restored and ready proof that broken things could indeed become beautiful again, different from their original form, but perfect in their reimagining.